What's up, everybody? This is Lyle with No Hippie Barbecue, and what I'm be doing today is going to be kind of a Philly cheesesteak inspired stuffed tri-tip. Now, I'd never thought about doing a stuffed tri-tip, but I was over at another YouTube channel the other day. The name of that channel is Linda's Pantry. I'm sure some of you guys know of her. For those of you that don't, she does some excellent cooking. I'm going to go ahead and leave a link to her channel in the description and in the iCard above. But she did a stuffed tri-tip, and she did it in a Dutch oven. Mine's going to be a little bit different, but she's the one that gave me the inspiration. Anyway, why don't you guys come on in and take a look at what I'm using, then we'll get this thing done. I'll be using for this stuffed tri-tip, I have about a 2-pound tri-tip. Now, when I say this is Philly cheesesteak inspired, I'm not trying to say it's authentic or anything like that. I know people get a little, out of their mind when it comes to, Philly cheesesteak. So, I am using provolone cheese. I have onion, and what I've done is slice those onions about like that, so thinly sliced, and same thing with some jalapenos. So Philly cheesesteak is usually going to be green peppers. I'm rolling with the jalapenos instead, and then we have mushrooms. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and get this filleted out right quick. One tip on this is if you are going to be using some sliced cheese of any kind, let this kind of come out to room temperature, because when we stuff this, it's just going to make it a lot easier to work with. Now, I just wanted to give you kind of a quick look at this tri-tip. This is kind of an in-between size on this, so a lot of times when you do this, you're going to want to cut it kind of so it'll fold out in like thirds, but this one wasn't quite thick enough to do that. So what I did was just kind of come down the middle and kind of fillet it there. I did go a little bit far in this little section right here, but what we're going to do now is we're going to go ahead and pound it out. We're going to pound it out fairly gently. We're not going to want to tear the meat up or anything. So I'm going to pound this out till we get about half this thickness. Pound it out. What I'm doing is I'm going ahead and sauteing my onions, jalapenos, and mushrooms. I'm going to hit it with just a little bit of garlic, salt, and I have about a tablespoon of oil in here. So we're going to cook these down until they become softened. Vegetables have cooked down about where I want. I'm going to go ahead and turn the pan off and just let them come to room temperature. One thing to make note of, when I did fillet this thing out, I did pound the inside of the meat so the outside wouldn't be all torn apart. So just a little tip there. Now I also have the cheese cut in half just to make it a little bit easier to possibly roll, and we're just going to kind of go over it with this cheese. And as much or as little cheese as you'd like. I'm just going to use all that I have cut right here. And then we're just going to come over it with our vegetables. And these are pretty much at room temperature right now. And these peppers, I'm going to tell you, now I know why I was coughing. These are some of the hottest peppers that I have ever tasted as far as jalapenos go. Alright, looks like enough there. And we're just going to go ahead and roll this up. It looks like some of this is going to be falling out. We'll push that back in, and we're going to get some butcher twine to hold it together. So while we're getting this butcher twine put together, I have my oven getting preheated to like 350, and I have a cast iron skillet with some oil, and I'm getting that screeching hot. I've already tied a couple of these in here, but I did want to show kind of this end part. So it is a little bit open, so what we're going to do is kind of come real close to the end, and we're going to shut this down real tight. There's probably still going to be a little leakage on that, but this should hold it pretty good. So we'll come there, do the same thing on this side. Now that we have this all tied up, it's time for me to promote another YouTube channel. What I'm going to be putting on top of this roast or this steak is going to be some Tsang stir-fry oil. This was sent to me by another YouTube channel called The Root Boy Cooks. Run by his channel and take a look at his stuff. He has some real good stuff out there. So we're just going to kind of come over it with this stir fry oil, and we're just putting this on so the the seasoning that we're putting on will stick. Alright, what we're going to be putting on it is just going to be some roasted garlic, sea salt, and parsley mix. And we're just going to hit all sides with it. So right now we have our skillet and it is scorching hot. I have that Tsang stir fry oil in the skillet as well. And you know what? If I didn't mention it earlier, I'm going to go ahead and put a link to the Rude Boy Cooks and iCard above and the description below. This tri-tip is probably a little bit big for this, so we may end up having to kind of bend it a little bit to get it to fit. And what we want to do is sear it on both sides. This side should be seared, so let's just go ahead and flip it over. We're going to sear this side. Once we're done searing that, we're going to throw it in the oven. Now this is going to be cooked a little bit more done than a normal tri-tip, and the reason is there's nothing worse than having cheese and vegetables with a bunch of blood running through it. So we're probably going to cook this to about medium, maybe medium rare. Seared all sides on this, so now just going to throw it in the oven and wait for it to get cooked. I'm not going to be using a thermometer or anything like that. I'm just going to kind of go by sight on it. This tri-tip out of the oven, I'm going to go ahead and let that rest for probably about 15-20 minutes so the cheese is kind of not going to melt out as soon as I cut it. And once we let that rest, we'll get back and do the taste test on it. Rested 20 minutes. Let's go ahead and cut into it and see what it's looking like. So here's what we're looking like right here. Looks good to me. Thank Linda at Linda's Pantry for giving me this idea. This actually looks really good. Now, really, just comes down to how it tastes. So let's go ahead and cut some of this out here. I'm going to tell you, those jalapenos are pretty hot, especially to be cooked down and still be hot. If I was to do it again, and I'm saying that this is actually excellent, but there's always room for improvement. If I was to do it again, I'd probably add a little bit more cheese, but this is a nice take on a tri-tip. If you're looking for something other than a regular tri-tip, you've got to give this a try. Anyway, thanks for stopping by No Hippie Barbecue. I appreciate it. Comment, subscribe, and I'm out.